Hey, welcome back to another episode of Blue Ridge Bonfire. Today, we are going to talk about all things navigation, at least on the trail. How we like to navigate, what we've used, what we're currently using, pros and cons therefore of. Before we get started, if you like what you're hearing or seeing, if you're watching us on YouTube, be sure like, subscribe, comment, share it with your friends. If you're on a audio only format, drop us a review. There's probably a shared link on there as well. Hit the share button, hit a random contact, and then if they text you back, give no response. I've never been lost, but in the words of Daniel Boone, I was geographically confused for about 3 months one time.
I thought it was bewildered.
I was bewildered.
I was bewildered for a few days or something like that, or a few weeks. Or
yeah, I've never been real lost. Been stranded before.
And if you want to learn a lot about Daniel Boone, Long Hunters.
The Long Hunter book, yeah,
Long Hunter book.
Yeah, audiobook only. I would love to own that, but there is no physical copy apparently.
I have no desire to own it, but I enjoyed the audiobook. So
yeah. The dude lived a wild life, like
yes,
wilder than you can even experience through today's lens.
Yeah, no, 100%. Totally worth listening to if you're traveling someplace. Yeah. The Long Hunters.
If anybody ever gives you a hard time about how much you're outdoors, remind them that once he went on a hunting trip for like 18 months, and everyone he was either killed or gave up and went back home, except for him. And he ran into some other guys that were getting ready to go to an 18-month long hunt. And was like,
yeah,
I'll hop in with you guys. Yeah, I'll stay. So he was gone for over 3 years. So it could always be worse. Yeah.
I have a friend who recently did a canoe trip. Sort of just like bought a canoe.
Really?
Yeah, and like got on the Mississippi and just paddled for like 3 or 4 weeks. Drove up.
Yeah.
Like on a motorcycle, I believe. Like went out west, bought a motorcycle, drove it back, and was like, river. I'm gonna get a canoe. Stored the bike, and then paddled for like 3 weeks straight.
Yeah.
And
on the Mississippi.
I believe it was the Mississippi. Yeah,
that sounds pretty good.
I remember reading about some guys that did like the length of the Mississippi, and they said that actually, like once you get down a certain point south, it's like pretty terrifying because of just all the barges and stuff like that. Like it becomes like it can go bad real quick kind of situation.
I have a lot of friends who have done large chunks of the Rio Grande through like Big Bend.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, a couple of them kind of like that. Like they plan to do the trip. I don't know that they plan to be out as long as they ended up being.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm sure he told people because he has a pretty good sized business, and he was just like, and he just sort of like would find places he could stow the canoe under a bridge, walk to gas stations, resupply, get back in his canoe, and
wow, man, a quick and early tangent. But one thing, I don't know if I'd want to do that, but I've always thought it'd be really cool to go into either like Wisconsin. Where there's just a ton of lakes, like small lakes, or even up north,
boundary waters.
Stuff. And do because up there that allows you to have some of those ridiculous boats that weigh like nothing, so you can like throw them over your head, all your stuff on your back, and walk 2 miles to the next lake, drop it in. Because like my boat's 52 pounds, like that would be low fun.
It's 48 or something.
So
my dad's always wanted to do boundary waters. That's one. If I get the chance to do that with him would be fun, but I don't know when that would be.
I could do a.
There's some really cool ones in Maine.
An accidental epic canoe trip.
Yeah,
I think.
Kevlar.
I'm sure my wife would be proud of me, but
Kevlar and you can't get Royal Lex anymore. What's the other? There's something else like I know you can get the Kevlar canoes that are like 26 pounds or whatever, but there's something else that's like kind of like not $1 million, but not a 60-pound boat. So when you're out canoeing for a long distance, you need to be able to navigate, much like when you're in a truck in the backwoods. So we want to talk about navigation while overlanding. And if you're not a frequent listener, that's about how our H podcast goes. We like to make sure you learn about a lot of things. We just don't always know what they're going to be.
I think you're using learn a little loosely there.
Yeah. We want to make sure you're informed.
You hear some
about a lot of things there.
Informed about a lot of random stuff.
Yeah, so we were kind of having this conversation in the shop about like what we use for navigation, and thought it would be kind of cool to explore that. I have been kind of in the ecosystem I'm in now for a good number of years, like 6 or 7. Before that was within a different software, which is still around, but it's very different from when I used it. And then I do tend to lean into like having backups of the old school, like hard copy paper maps like these, to the point that like I actually went and got one of these pouches out of my truck. It lives in there full time. But yeah, we want to talk about that. Matt, you have the most experience probably like navigating and
I don't know if that's true.
I'm going to call a spade. You're also the oldest person in this room.
Yeah, okay. I can
and so you
appreciate that.
probably had only...
I was around pre-MapQuest, so I totally get that.
So
MapQuest.
maybe walk us through how you used to, because I mean, you were going out west and doing trips.
I mean, we did everything with gazetteers and...
Yeah.
We need to back up for a second and say, maybe not of our listeners, but there's a bunch of people who probably don't know MapQuest at this point.
That's a good point.
When I bring up MapQuest, I feel old sometimes.
Yeah.
I remember having the
printing?
stapled print off in the dash, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, that was magic. I didn't even... before you could get the AAA trip planning tickets thing.
Yeah.
I never planned well enough for that, so...
Yeah.
I did one of those with the AAA spring break road trip.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's a win.
Yeah.
I kept gazetteers and I would get maps. Even now, like we'll call tourism and for the areas like state tourism and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And have them send us a packet because they'll send you a bunch of local maps and park maps and state maps and they'll send you all kinds of stuff.
I don't have any in here.
All for free.
In this Mapfolio, which...
That's a good hack, honestly.
Anytime not anytime, but most of the time if we're taking a trip someplace that we haven't been a bunch or a state we haven't been a bunch, we'll just, we'll a month ahead, we'll call them and within a couple of weeks you get a packet of their tourism stuff.
Yeah. So this Mapfolio is not actually mine. By the way, by the time this podcast comes out, you can get in on this limited run of our Mapfolios for like 2 more days.
Yeah.
They are kind of an evergreen, always popular product from Blue Ridge, but...
and we build them about twice a year.
Yeah. As the name implies, a folio for holding maps. But we've got this one kind of loaded up, excuse the Velcro noises, with some purple lizards and some butlers. And like, I do like purple lizard because they have some cool stuff like in our region and the Northeast, which is not always the case with the big map companies. But yeah, I'm with you. Like I will have a couple of these, but I'm more likely to have like a specific map for the Blue Ridge Parkway or a specific map for a state park
or a state gazetteer that gets you to at least something, gets you kind of in the area of stuff.
Yeah. And honestly, I think for me, the gazetteers, that's not even just like, off-road navigation. There's 3 or 4 states in that pouch. And honestly, we're just needing to kind of like get a game plan together, instead of sort
of a general, here's where, especially if it's not like you don't want to go the way Google's giving you or whatever's giving you on the nav. You're like, oh, I don't really want to go this way. Here's kind of where I want to end up. Okay. Where do I need to tell it that I want to go to to get me the direction that I want?
What little town?
Yeah. What little town do I want it to tell it to run through? And I'll do a lot of that when I'm kind of laying stuff out.
Yeah.
And now I've used a little bit of everything. I know we have other people in the room that are Gaia fans. I've not used Gaia enough to be dangerous. Like I've test drove it a few times and never gotten into it.
Yeah, I was gonna let Logan handle that one because it's probably been 7 years since I've actually looked at Gaia.
Yeah, and I use a lot of the Garmin stuff or have in the past, just because I'm kind of in that ecosystem a little bit. Like, my watch, and I have a 66i or something that I take with me anytime I'm traveling. And
an Overlander for like the
I've had
original
an
Overlander.
I don't have a current version, but I've had the original for pretty much since they came out. And they've, that's always worked reasonably well for me.
Yeah.
So obviously paper maps, like you guys said, no matter what, it's good to have, like, for a backup, have those around. We know
it's really good for planning.
You can plan. You know that it's not going to lose batteries. It's not going to die. It's not going to be out of signal.
I know it's a bit of a what if, but a couple months ago when like there was like a massive AT&T outage.
Yeah.
I guess my thing is, even though with my on X Maps I have like offline.
Yeah.
Like what if or I mean,
if you don't have cell service?
What if I just get out of the truck and drop my phone and it hits a rock and explodes? Like that's kind of
I hear you. Having redundancy is a huge thing.
My question was, if we're kind of going down the line before we get to the specifics of like apps on the phone, where do the standalone, Garmin unit, watch, GPS, whatever, where do those fit in for you guys? Because, you know what I mean?
I have no middle ground. It's either on my phone or it's in that pouch. Like,
so I road nav off my phone.
Yeah.
And I typically have off-road nav'd on like a Garmin GPS or Magellan. I think I used a Magellan for a little while when they had something going.
Yeah.
It wasn't bad for back in the day.
Yeah.
But the Garmin Overlander has been one of my go-tos. And now I haven't used Onyx much, but I have that. I use it way more around the house and the farm and regionally than I do anywhere, because
if you want to have a lot of fun, you should drive around with Matt in your vehicle with Onyx pulled up, like on your CarPlay, because he gets super into like who owns what land and like how big is that piece of property.
Yeah, I have a lot of pieces on my place mapped out and cameras mapped and stuff like that, so I know where game cameras are, and I can find them again because I've done that before. Where it's not a cell game camera. I'm like, shit, I know it's up here somewhere. I need to get within at least 10 feet of it to remember. But yeah, I mean, Onyx is something I've started using more prevalently. But like I said, that's mostly here. Most of my bigger travel is turn on the Google and get me to the general area and then flip over to... And probably, I mean, honestly, the Overlander stuff will do all that for you. I'm just so used to...
Yeah, that's kind of what I was wondering, because, I mean... I know you have that, and I see a lot of guys have like a Garmin in their rig, and I wondered how much you use that to get to random other city on a road trip or whatever.
So I mean, I think a lot of people do. A lot of people use that, and like I said, if it wasn't so easy to just
phone,
and I trust my Google way too much, and I know I've talked about this before, but there have been times when I've been like, you were wrong. There's no way this is right, and I'm going to follow you. And 5-6 miles down a tractor path popped out, just driving past miles and miles of stop traffic.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, and it shows both as roads.
Yeah.
And I'm like driving basically through somebody's field. And
that's the case now.
Not through their field, through the edge. And then all of a sudden was like, holy crap, I'm at the freeway. And I just saved like 2 hours of sitting parked.
Yeah, I do remember a time, especially standalone GPS units, where you could not necessarily just have 100% certainty you were going to get there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying it's perfect either, but I've been surprised a number of times where I've gone like, all right, I'm going to trust you.
Yeah.
And it's like, I've been like, holy shit. Like,
I remember
you were the winner.
Early 2000s being in South Carolina with like a Garmin or a Magellan, just in the dash, a GPS, or in the windshield on a mount. And it being like, turn left, and like me slowing down and being like, it's a field with a fence. Like, not only I can't, but I'm not sure you ever could. Yeah,
well, that's the way this felt. Minus there was no fence.
Yeah.
And there was an obvious was a tractor path or
there was a tire mark. I do have a GPS watch, but I don't have a Garmin. It's a Quaros, which I got primarily because it has crazy battery life. I charge it about once a month, and I run 3 times a week, whatever.
I've never had that many people chase me, but I get it.
And so is yours OLED or like his, just like 2-color? Because I know that's a big thing.
OLED.
Yeah. Because like that's the thing. That one does way better than most, but that's still
battery-wise?
Yeah.
Oh, I think this thing's probably horrible. It's almost dead right now.
But I
charge it every 3 days.
Yeah. Mine's about 27 days, I think is what it says. And that's pretty true. That holds pretty true.
Yeah.
If I have mine on like low battery or whatever, it'll go a long time, but I never do. I let it do all its tricks.
Yeah.
But I use that for me, like if I'm running or hiking or backpacking, I have my phone with me, but it's almost like my phone is a redundancy at that point, because my watch is, I put that in airplane mode and hope it'll last me another 3 days if I got lost and needed to.
Yeah. I don't actually use the watch to nav anything. I mostly use the watch to mark waypoints, things that I want to get back to, or
which that would be
where I left stuff, or
that's more what I do. I'm supposedly on a trail if I'm hiking, so I shouldn't have to do too much.
Yeah, mostly it's like, oh, don't forget this place, and I'll just hit the waypoint button, and then I'll go back and
drop a pin.
Remind myself of what it was that.
See, I'm still in like, it's like everything's on my phone or the web portal for set app, or it's in those books. Like I don't have any.
So I have a crap load of notes in a lot of my gazetteers.
Yeah.
Like, it'll say, turn at the chain link fence, or turn in the chain link fence, or open the chain link fence across from the
Yeah.
fly outfitter.
Yeah.
Drive 3 miles along gravel road. Make sure you lock the fence. Like it'll be my.
And I guess for me, it's just like, I've got Kentucky, Tennessee, North Carolina, Virginia in there. That's a lot of redundancy for like something that fits under the seat.
Yeah. No, 100%.
And also for you on YouTube, for you that are not on YouTube, you'll have to imagine this is a very old version of a map pouch that Brog made way back in the day. I think I got this from Matt in like 2014 or 15.
Yeah, it's an early edition for sure, just based on the webbing and the.
It has the most stylish webbing.
It does. I love this old Southwest.
Yeah.
It's like I've had it. This has been around so long that this has become like cool again.
Yeah.
Because I bought it when it wasn't cool, because there was a lot of it and it was almost free because
it
had stopped being cool, and then so they were like selling out of it, and I bought all I could find, and then we're out of it. But suddenly now it's cool again.
Mm-hmm. That's kind of my two systems. The phone is in the dash. Now my truck has CarPlay. So, but honestly, like on X, I prefer it on my phone. Like when we were up in West Virginia running on X, I didn't actually use it on CarPlay. I was using the phone.
So does the screen size matter to you? Because that's the one thing that I like about my Overlanders and stuff, is the screen's big enough for me to see.
I guess with the phone, it's so quick to like zoom in and out. I don't really mind. You know, when I was in Colorado, I did a road that was like 21 miles. There were no turns. So I had it just zoomed way out so I could kind of be like, where are we at in all this mess? Just kind of like, are we halfway done? Are we, now if I'm up in, West Virginia and it's a network of forest roads, I'll be zoomed way in. Also, that's why my CarPlay is not the most up-to-date version. It takes a few clicks, taps to like zoom in and out. I like on the phone, I'm just like, is it the left or the right? I can't tell. Whoop. It's the left. Whoop,
Yeah, I like the bigger screen myself. But that may be because I'm, my glasses are thicker than they used to be. Kind of thing.
I did not have to worry about that anymore. So, so you talked about OnX, Gaia. I used Gaia back in the day. I did appreciate all the different layers that are available, but I got into OnX off-road pretty early. Like, I was kind of doing the math. It's got to be like 2018 or 19, because I remember like being up here for trips. Like some of my first trips, I came up into like kind of the Blue Ridge and really spent some time using OnX. So my experience with Gaia, Logan, is very outdated. I have heard that they're like, making some updates and some changes and stuff like that. You were using it on a run just a couple of weeks ago when we were out on a trip. Mm-hmm. So kind of like, what's your thoughts on capability, UI, ease of use, whatever?
Yeah. I mean, for me, let's just start with, I also got into Gaia like, I don't know, 2016 or 2017.
Yeah.
So I have some, saved routes and all that stuff in there that I have kind of stuck with.
You can download those and put them on other stuff, though.
Yeah,
GPX file. Yeah.
But actually, after Adventure X Fest, I downloaded OnX just to see, and it is really nice. I think if I was only using it for overlanding purposes, it would be the obvious choice. But there's no totally free version. It's only a trial.
Yeah.
Gaia is free. I know this is obviously makes it a deal breaker for anything really out there. The free version just doesn't have offline. So before I'd go on a trip or anything, I'd pay for it if I wasn't all the time, but I can still access and plan when I'm at home, all that stuff for free. And then you don't have to pay for different subscriptions. It's like one, and I got hiking trails, running trails.
Yeah.
It's not as, you're
Does
not able
Gaia
to
do area, like where you can actually like draw an area and see how big it is?
I'm not sure. I haven't actually.
Okay.
That's because that's something I use on off-road that I don't know what the functionality is for off-road, but I know I use it like on our property.
I use it.
I think
I use that more than anything on my on. Like that's the reason I have on.
Okay.
Not the only reason, but like that's not true. That's why I bought it, because it has that area piece. I don't really use it. Like I said, I mark some stuff on it.
Yeah.
But
and it's slick because you just draw 3 points. It makes this triangle. It's like, that's how much
Okay.
acreage it, and then you just stretch that. I've even used it for lakes. Like, how big is this lake? You know, if I'm going in to paddle it, kind of like, which boat should I take? You know, oh, that is way bigger than
it looked. Yeah.
I'll have to try because I do believe that Gaia at least has point to point where you can just drag a line and it'll tell you distance.
How far it is.
Yeah.
And this is kind of a, I don't know, an extension of that, because you're literally just adding another point. It's doing the math, and then you customize that size.
Yeah, it's got an area situation.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's not like necessarily that I think it's better. I liked the Onyx interface enough to be like, I'm going to download this. It looks great. With me not doing a ton of, I need kind of equal like hiking, running, and navigation. I usually use it to get to a trailhead that's not that far out there to go for a hike.
Yeah.
So I like to have both in one and not have to deal with that. And that would be my reason.
Like I said, I don't use it on the road at all.
Yeah. I always use it for off-roading. Like, I'll put together routes. There's like a snap to or a draw tool. You know, if you just like literally, I want to know this line, save that line, stuff like that. Occasionally I use it for the like navigate to. So you like pick a point, and I'm like, okay, even that point's going to be out of service, and then you can open up Google Maps. It takes you there, and then you can get back on OnX. But, you know, we talked about how there's different services. You know, they've got hunt, off-road, backcountry, and then they just bought trout routes, which I experimented with. And I guess for me, kind of going back to what you said about like the tools, I've kind of I've found ways to use OnX off-road for everything I want to do.
Right.
Like, one of the cool things on trout routes is it shows you the elevation drop on a stream. Well, you just got to draw a line over the stream on the topo map.
And it'll tell you.
And it tells me that, you know, on off-road. And kind of same thing, you know, like if I'm going on a hike, we did the hike to Dragon's Tooth or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, you know, I ran just to see how far along the route we were. I just, you know, start recording. Well, you know, it's recording a GPS point. It's not recording on a road. So it'll still do that. I do use Strava when I'm on the bike because there's some like data points, you know, that OnX doesn't have for that. But
I sync, so I use Strava, but I just sync my GPS watch.
Oh, after the fact, instead of doing the track on there.
My app does it automatically, so once I log it on my watch, it automatically goes to Strava.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
And then for me, Strava, especially when I was paying for the Pro, was like the route building on that. That gave some pretty cool information. I have used OnX for some Strava stuff. But yeah, I've been in like OnX now for 2016, 2017. I've got routes. People have sent them to me. I could go to something else, but it would take a lot of back end work because, you know, all those files and lines and points and
would have to come out.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. Can you and probably, but on your maps, can you save those areas? Like, not that it matters now, but like where you just drew that, can you then save it so you know, like you look at this and you're like, oh, it's this much woods and this much pasture and this far down the road.
Unsure. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know. Do you know?
Because like I said, that's where I use OnX a lot, is being able to draw that.
I'm assuming
draw
Gaia
that square
you can,
and be
because
like,
it's,
there's a creek here.
Yeah.
Woods is right here, and
Yeah.
that's all saved in my.
It's really, you know, when you get down to the nitty gritty, it's all it's doing is a couple of lines and then the area inside of that. So I'd be shocked if you couldn't save those, because I've done that. Somebody asked me one time how much I mow, and I actually like.
Yeah, I mean, I know how big hay fields are, how big pastures are.
Yeah, I was like, oh, it's about this many acres. Because
if we're ordering lime or fertilizer or something, I'm like, oh, we're gonna put lime on these 3.
Yeah.
Okay, bring me, 2 tons an acre. I got 20 acres, and I'm gonna lime this year.
Yeah.
I honestly use it for that a lot. There's lots of other solutions for that on the farm side, but that's one I just happen to integrate my OnX into that.
Yeah, and
part of my life.
I've kind of this next point is pure laziness when I think about it. But the OnX has like I don't know, it's gonna be 20 or 30 custom waypoint symbols. And I've started using those because obviously I could name, trout stream or reservoir or whatever. But I've just started making it where it's like, two different shades of blue and the fish symbol. There's actually one on there for foraging now. Like if I find like a good mushroom patch, I'll just hit that. And then the date saved of when I did it. And it's like, oh, about the same time next year, I should go back and look for whatever it was, things like that. There's some weird ones. I like to throw those out there every once in a while. Like there's a Bigfoot one. So I just,
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
that way if people are looking at my Line X, you're like, man, this dude's really been tracking Sasquatch. Like, yeah.
He's been after Sasquatch
Yeah.
for years.
Yeah. This is all the known sightings. Yeah, but you know, going back to what you were saying, as much as I appreciate the electronic tools, like sometimes I just want to use the map. I want to be able to see it all at once. I think the gazetteers are something that, like, you know, for anybody that's like just getting into this, don't just have a electronic option. Like,
For sure.
they're super handy. They take up zero room. They're super easy to use. We talk about like UI with apps. The best UI is in those books. I love how it's like, you know,
Go
you're
to
on
this page, this number.
you're on a page. Oh crap! It's just off the edge of the page. Oh, it's that one. You know, and it literally has the page number. Flip, and or you look at the back. Is it the back covers that have all of them for the whole state?
Yeah. And then you just flip to the right page,
Yeah.
the page you want. There's an index in them too, but it has all the.
This purple lizard's not opened up, but like I really appreciate that they even have like the regional thing on the back. So if you've got multiples here, no way you can see that. But like it shows you like the different areas in the state of West Virginia for this one, where the name of the map is at. And then inside of this, it even gives you kind of like some touristy information things. You know, it's not just like it's a town. It's like, oh, here's a town and there's a cool outfitter there or a visitor center or whatever. So
Yeah.
is it Butler that actually has like a QR code to download like the GPS tracks that coincide with that map, right?
Yeah.
Because they're all kind of like route based.
Yeah.
Or is that the BDR maps?
No, I think it's the
Butler?
I think Butler's.
Yeah.
I think Butler maps.
Excuse the Velcro noise.
That's pretty cool because I do think there's times when the two together are great.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
you're planning
GPS
on your paper
waypoints,
map
points
and
of
then
interest.
get in there.
Yeah.
Oh, I was crossing my streams there. Download free GPS tracks at rodbdr.com. They partner with rodbdr. Yeah. And you know, these are moto focused, but like they're super handy. They're just mostly out west. Yeah. Which on that note, the BDR, they just announced a new one in North Georgia, and I have it on good authority that there's another one that's further east than most that's going to be announced next month.
Really?
Yeah. So
Good authority, like really good authority.
somebody that worked on the film project for the AVU. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. They always have like a movie to highlight them. They just did one in like it's also cool because it's a loop, not just a linear track in North Georgia. That one just debuted, and they've got another one coming up in
Does Fun Tracks still exist?
Fun Tracks.
Yeah, I think that's what it was. Fun Tracks. Fun Tracks, maybe? Fun Tracks?
I'm unfamiliar.
Fun Tracks Incorporated is in Monument, Colorado. Yeah, off-roading trails
Yeah.
in Colorado, Arizona, California, Utah. We
I have a
every-
few of those. For
Okay.
like the San Juans and stuff. if we're-
guidebooks. Oh, they're
Yep.
like spiral bound.
Yep.
Yeah.
Notebooks with a little spiral bound books, and usually they have like a little container for pens and pencils and shit in them.
Yeah. No, they're still. This site
Still
looks
kicking it.
recently updated. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I know that those are kind of slick too.
Yeah.
I've got a few of those that I've ordered over the years that we'll take if we're heading to an area
Yeah.
where it's like, oh, we haven't, here's all the stuff we've seen. Let's go dig this up and see what
Yeah.
this looks like.
I have got another website that I think people, especially you were talking about like the gold mines, it reminded me of this.
Technically silver, I think, in Colorado.
Download. Nope. So this site that I'm struggling to find the name of, but I'm going to look. It's in my bookmarks, but it's in there with a million other things. It allows you to go back. Here it is. So it's USGS historical topographic maps,
Yeah.
and it's livingatlas.arcgis.com. If you really want to nerd out on some maps, this may be the mother lode, because you literally draw, or you click a point actually, and then there's like 40 on the right hand column, and it will tell you of that 40 how many of those are available for that point. And it's all the USGS maps, and then whatever it was called before that.
Right.
And depending on where you're at, obviously changes. But here we were looking at some that were like
A million years
like 1700s,
old.
right?
Yeah.
That were like government surveys from
Yeah.
back then, and it's kind of cool because like different.
It'd be
year-
like shit George Washington surveyed.
yeah, no, for real, and it's different scales. So, like you're on the list, and the third one down may be really crappy, but you click the next one, and it's a way better scale or
Yeah.
whatever. But you can find some cool stuff on there because it's like roads, communities, stuff like that just don't exist now.
Yeah.
Like they're there. It's just fun to kind of like, if you really want to like, dive in, pick a small town and then go back as far as you can get it to go. And a lot of those even have buildings, and it'll be like, oh, at one point that was a crossroad and 6 structures,
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah. No, it has a bunch of neat stuff in there.
Yeah. It is not very mobile friendly. It's definitely a desktop
it's
thing.
definitely, and better on the computer if I remember correctly. Not a
Yeah. No, it's like a
not
desktop laptop.
Yeah. It doesn't function on the phone like.
Yeah. Via livingatlas.arcgis.com. That is a really cool. We'll drop that in the like description and notes and
The
stuff.
show notes.
Yeah. Any other kind of like Navi tools that you guys use?
No, not anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, MapQuest is. I think they're dead.
Yeah.
I don't think AAA does the flip books anymore. So,
I don't know, man. I went to get my international driver's license at the AAA
and they were still going
office.
Right? Like
it was hopping. There were people, at least either that or paid actors. There were people in there that appeared to work for AAA on the phone, helping people like plan trips. I was like,
there's a travel agent office down the road from me, and I
you
don't
see those every
understand.
once in a while, right? Like, yeah. It's like, are you kidding me? If I type flights to Denver, there's 14 websites competing to get me just to book it through their site. But yeah, no, they had all kinds of stuff. We bought some travel adapters while I was there, stuff like that. I will say that every once in a while when I'm in the woods, I've done some land nav classes. I do enjoy to try to, just to do some like totally offline like navigation.
So do you like pull out a compass and
On occasion, but a lot of times I just try to do like more like, constant check kind of things like backstops and handrails. Like, okay, I followed this ridge down to here, or, whatever. And then just more or less like a terrain association, like, versus now, I guess the last time I actually like pulled out a compass, shot an azimuth, walked it, shot a back azimuth, was checking out some property for my dad. And it was on like a river bluff. And the part that I needed to get to and the part that where it was easy to get down were not the same.
Right.
So actually triangulated and walked back up and was on my back azimuth and was like, all right, this should be. And I was like, literally kind of came over this ridge and here's my line. And I was maybe like 10 degrees off the truck that was still, several hundred yards away. If it would have been a point and on a nav course, I would have missed it. But it was a truck in an open field.
Right.
And so, it was serviceable. Yeah.
Just having enough skill to get you close.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah. So thanks for listening and watching, all that good stuff. Let us know what you use to navigate. If we're missing something that's really cool out there, let us know.
For sure. If we're missing something interesting, let us know.
Map folios probably won't come back around until next year. You got about 2 days by the time that this podcast goes live to snag one of these from BlueRidgeOverlandGear.com. They're great for all those like Butler, Purple Lizard, stuff like that maps, but also like Matt said, like the local ones, trail maps for particular parks and all of that.
Yeah.
So yeah.
All the fun stuff.
Yep. We will catch you in 2 weeks.